Hello folks, welcome back, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another One Piece review. So I'm recovering Manga chapter 1171. So I could not be the only one after this chapter thinking it's such a breath of fresh air when we got back to the present. We knew we were going to get back to the present, but just seeing it finally after half a year, I can't wait to see what else is going on elsewhere. Hopefully Oda doesn't shy away from that, we'll find out. So despite this chapter we also got the second teaser trailer of One Piece live action season 2. I have to say the second trailer looks way better than the original, and I have to say Lyra Bother as nicorobin, from the scenes we saw, absolutely chef's kiss. You couldn't have asked for a better live counterpart to nicorobin, Lyra Bother as nicorobin in the live action season 2. That was a brilliant move, displaying their abilities. That was the main point. That was the main selling point for me as far as the trailer. But I will say, I did appreciate getting to see the other members of Baroque Works finally, as well as like Vivi, to get to see what she can do. So this is going to be good. The other thing too, I don't know if they timed it this way, but in a span of a month, you're going to have the live action season 2 airing Netflix on March 10th. Then several weeks later, you're going to have the Elbaf starting in the anime. Like, timing is almost perfect here. Almost too perfect. And keep in mind, production for season 3 is ongoing, even as we speak, as that trailer drops. So let's start off with the cover page, with the cover request. We've got Zoro with a cat putting cat's ears on Zoro. Very cute, very innocent. It kind of reminds me of Sasuke a little bit. So we start off the chapter, and immediately covers the aftermath of the demise of King Harold. Now, Shanks and Scopper are talking with Jarl, first off about the treasure and rumours about the Devil Fruit. Obviously, we're going to get to see the Devil Fruit in full force in action. Clearly, Oda's set us up for that in the present. So Oda's giving us like teasers here and there. So that's what that was. By having Scopper and Shanks even amazed by this. Then Shanks and Scopper turn this conversation into Shanks, who literally he's pretty much done. He's given up at this point because he's obviously the death of King Harold. Shanks respected King Harold quite a lot, and he wasn't able to save him. So obviously this hit Shanks hard. So I like that because it's different aspects of Shanks' character that we don't usually get to see. Like, obviously he has a deep admiration for Roger and the Roger Pirates, but outside of everybody else that's not named Luffy, we don't really see this all that lot. We get two panels, one of King Harold and the other is of Garling. You got Garling saying, "Oh, now that you've been now you've been rescued from the surface, you can live a luxury life. Name anything you wish, you can have it." So obviously he gets a life of luxury, but Shanks doesn't want that, and immediately he begins rejecting that old life. It looks like he's going to do something to his arm with the mark on it before Scopper puts a stop to that shit. Because he's like, "No, get a hold of yourself. You shouldn't resent your existence. You shouldn't resent your birth." But this is foreshadowing because we know what's going to happen to that arm when he meets Luffy. But I like the dialogue that Scopper gives to Shanks here. Like, "Listen, Shanks, you're here for a reason. Everyone's life has a purpose. It has a meaning. So just gotta hold on." And of course it has a reason, because obviously it's inspiration for Luffy. But to me, with this dialogue, it seems like we're going to get more into Shanks' character this year than any other. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but the way this year is starting up, especially for Shanks, like, Oda's alluded to something very soon. But we got Loki, who's obviously covered his father's corpse. Then we cut to Pangaea Castle on Marajoa. And this is one of the most intriguing parts of the entire chapter, because this scene does two things. It sets up two things that's coming in the present. So we have Imu, along with the Gorosei, finally realizing that King Harold is dead, he's been killed. But what's surprising about this is, like, Imu isn't aware of who's responsible for this, because Imu goes on to say, "Is this something unforeseen lurking on Elbaf?" So obviously this turns the attention of Imu to Elbaf, even with the demise of King Harold. You got the Gorosei kind of mentioning we should inspect the Abyss pentagram that King Harold carved inside Ora's castle. Imu says, "No, that won't be necessary, because if we do that..." Now, keep in mind what he says here. "It will only result in the death of another knight." Now, keep in mind, there is levels to this conveyance contract of Imu, because Imu goes on to say, even every covenant comes with a price to be paid even for Emu, which was surprising that Emu said that, but this was the first thing that stuck out. The top tier Holy Knights can have, so we know that they can partially regenerate, but for the most part, from what we've seen with King Harold, they can be killed. But they can be killed, and remember, King Harold didn't lose his arm, so there are restrictions to this, even if they have partial immortality. We saw that with Saint Summers in the present, so just keep that in mind, because we're going to find out very soon what happens to him. Then this goes on about a monologue from the Gorosei about how appropriate King Harold was, but the fact that he's from Elbaf, and Emu goes on to say, this disappointing outcome proves that history does not lie. We were always meant to be incompatible with Elbaf. And obviously there's history with not only that, but the ancient giants. Like, there's obviously distrust from the get-go, because they were from Elbaf. Like, I don't know if we're going to get more information about that, but then Oda has even revealed this bombshell. Never forget, Elbaf is of the D. So, immediately, Oda's like, set the seeds for the present, because we're going to find out what that means in the present, not in the backstory. Oda set two things up that's coming in the present when it comes to Elbaf. The Holy Knights having restrictions on their immortality. Obviously, if they didn't, then there won't be much of a match against then. There's no way the Straw Hats would win. So obviously there's got to be limitations to this, like I've been saying. And the second thing is Oda's teasing something regarding Elbaf related to D, or the will of D. What does that mean? Is it related to a member of the D, Nika, Joy Boy? So there's a lot. I think there's a lot of things that this could mean here, but I'm not going to waste time on it because, like I said, Oda's going to like reveal that in due time, since he's dead set on resolving Elbaf this year. So we go back to Ura's castle at Elbaf. Loki saying he's going to take the guards that survived along with him. Of course he is, because they're the only ones who know the truth about what happened with King Harold and his takeover. So he's going to take them away. He says to everybody else, like, and because Jarl was like, what about King Harold's last request? Loki says, to hell with that. I'm keeping the truth bottled up. Don't say a word. For all intents and purposes, like, we knew this one was we knew this was coming, but Oda's like doubling down. Loki is taking the heat for this, and the fact you have Scopper and Shanks is there, and the whole reason that Scopper's there in the first place is to reestablish what Loki's telling Haradin and the others, which we get to see in the present very soon. So that's the only reason why Scopper and Shanks is there, because other than that, like, they did partially buy some time, but Loki is really taking the heat for this. Don't speak a word of what happened today. But then Jarl responds, if we say nothing, who do you think they're going to blame for this? But Loki's okay with that because he's willing to like protect his father's image to make sure like it doesn't get disrespected. So he's literally taking the heat. He's taking the blame so nobody knows the truth about his father and what happened and the mistakes he made, which literally mistakes were made. I like that from Loki because it's character development. Like, we were going to get it anyway, but the fact that Oda's given it in this chapter before we even get to the present. Speaking of which, did you notice the looks that Shanks and Scopper gave? I got somewhat of a nitpick unless Oda decides to correct this before the end of Elbaf. I'm going to mention it anyway by the end. So we cut back to the present, and finally the beans have been spilled to Haradin, Luffy and company, so they know the truth. Now, what's really interesting is that while Loki is screaming, not like I was crazy enough to brag about killing him, like, I just didn't want his legacy getting dismissed, everything that he stood for. And by the way, that also means Ida, because Ida's the one that injected the ideals into King Harold after she met King Harold. So there's a lot you can take from this, but Loki, the fact that he doesn't want to dishonor his father's image by revealing the truth. And I like how he poses the question, do you really think I should have told the people everything? And he's saying this to Haradin. No response. Because he's right. Because he goes on to admit, like, you're right. And speaking of which, Scopper goes on to back up what Loki is saying, and he says, Haradin, he's telling the truth. Luffy's got this, yet again, nonchalant look. He's listening to everything that's being said. Following this, we finally get the reconciliation that we knew we were going to get. We have Haradin be the one to free Loki from the shackles and chains. Finally, the Kuroseki shackles and chains are off, and it was Haradin that did it. Because he realizes the truth, and he goes on to say, I can understand why he chose to keep this secret. But then Scopper goes on to say to Elbaf some deep ties to Harold, even Loki doesn't know all the details. So Scopper's going to tell the truth by the end of this arc. The redemption for Loki is already kicking in. The truth is going to be revealed. The new Giant Warrior Pirates are finally learning about this. They hear what's going on. After Scopper's going to say extra details, Haradin goes on to say, no, that's not necessary, because now we know what to do. We no need further reason to protect our country. We see a panel of the new Giant Warrior Pirates, the rest of them, along with Zoro and Sanji. But then we get the dialogue between the two, and finally Haradin apologizes for everything as he's undoing the final shackles of Loki. And then he goes on to say, for the sake of Elbaf, let's make a stand together. Which is exactly what King Harold said to Loki, and what Ida wanted all along. For these two to get along for the future of Elbaf. I've been saying this multiple times. Loki and Haradin are going to set the tone for the future generation to come on Elbaf. That is their role. And you got Luffy in the background, so that's great, Loki. You can fight now. Luffy is reacting the same way as every hardcore Loki fan right now, because you can fight now. Good God, how long have we been waiting for this? Now, granted, we did get that in the King Harold backstory, but it was kind of vague considering a lot of it was skipped. But nothing's going to be skipped here. It can't be skipped because Oda's literally looking to wrap up Elbaf. Before they can even go up to actually save Elbaf, they're confronted by the Dragonar, the aberration created by Saint Killingham. The Dryhard, the skeleton-like ghost, he's not going to last much longer, but obviously it's to cut them off at the pass. This is done to set up Loki to finally see what he can do, finally have Loki back in action. Because everybody's freaking out, but Loki's like, oh, this would be a good warm-up. Everybody go on ahead. I got this. I'll catch up with you. This will be a good warm-up. We got the rest of the new Giant Warrior Pirates. They're heading up along with Sanji and Zoro. And they're basically going to say, we prejudged you, Loki. We didn't know anything. We're really sorry. So they're finally apologizing. So that was kind of cool that Oda added that in, because there was a lot of mistakes made on both ends. Which is why Haradin felt the need to apologize. Then Scopper's contemplating he wants to go back up because obviously he wants to help out his son. Sanji comes in and gives Chopper and Scopper a lift upwards, so nobody's getting left behind here. Then we got Luffy, who's not going anywhere. He wants to stick around because he wants to see what the second coming of Kaido, Loki, is capable of. He attacks with Ragnar and he unleashes his attack, Niflheim. And if you notice the attacks, where the Dryhard is being attacked, you see cracks around it, around the air. It kind of reminds me of Whitebeard, so either two things. Either it resembles Whitebeard's Devil Fruit, or it's literally Loki and this attack shattering the dimensional fabric of Elbaf while attacking the Dryhard to end the chapter. And if you noticed, you saw the hammer, the Ragnar, going squeak squeak. I thought that was kind of cute. But that's how Oda decides to end the chapter, with Loki unleashing the attack. Like I said, the redemption for Loki is in full effect. And like I said earlier, it was such a breath of fresh air to finally get back to the present. We knew we were going to go back there, but after 6 months of waiting to finally see Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hats, we're going to see what the other Straw Hats are doing up above pretty soon, so I can't wait to see that either. But for now, we're finally back in the present. Such a breath of fresh air. As good as the flashback was, I think a lot of people wanted to see what was going on in the present. Let's be real, let's be honest here. Finally going to get to find that out, as well as seeing what Loki can do in his Zoan form. We kind of know the silhouette, but like I said, it seems like he's setting some stuff up for Shanks' character going forward. Haradin should be a part of that, but I don't know. As far as power scaling wise, he could deal with some of the nightmare creatures of Saint Killingham, along with the new Giant Warrior Pirates. I think that would be okay too, but his character kind of screams like to be a part of that final fight. I'm not gonna lie, especially considering when you get the dialogue of Haradin saying, let's go make a stand together. Oda made it a point to let's not have one over the other. He had Haradin apologize, even though it was fault on both sides. And I said this multiple times, it could be a triple team up of Luffy, Loki, and Haradin in the final fight, going up against Gunko. It could very well be Luffy and Gear 5th alongside Loki going up against Gunko, with this Emu transformation, like this demonic transformation. Pick your poison, like it could be either one of those scenarios, but I'm more curious to see what's going on elsewhere when it comes to like Robin and the other characters involved, especially with Usopp. Like I don't know what roles Usopp's gonna have. The nitpick I have, unless Oda changes things and we get a reveal by the end. Right now, my question is this: what was the entire selling point of Luffy and Loki when it came to their meeting? What was it? It was because Loki had a secret about Shanks that he was willing to tell Luffy if he played ball with Loki and letting him out the shackles. I don't know about you, but what exactly happened in the backstory that warrants Loki despising Shanks, unless something else happened, which we didn't get to see. So, like I said, I could be jumping the gun, but just the way it looked, I don't think Oda's going to jump back to this. I just don't. Unless Shanks really has some resentment for Loki. Like I said, Oda could just clear this up by the end, but right now, I don't see what the big issue is that Loki could have with Shanks when we haven't really seen anything as far as like friction to eat. Like the only thing we got was the way that Shanks was acting at the beginning, but even then it's like he was kind of like corrected by Scarpa to like chill out, take it easy, just hang tough, alright? So I don't know if Shanks is going to like ignore someone he respects in Scarpa. So what's the beef there? So like I said, it's just a nitpick at this point because we don't really know where this is going, but as of right now, I don't really see how there's friction between the two, the way that Oda was trying to project Loki as describing, like when the way he was talking about Shanks, like why would he make that up if the whole point of this was to keep the secret of what he knew about King Harold and wanted to preserve his legacy. Like, you didn't need to like blame that on Shanks or pretend to hate Shanks for that to keep that secret. So I don't know. Like, but I don't know if anybody else agrees or doesn't really care at this point. But I don't know. Considering it's Shanks, I think a lot of people might care. I also like the fact that Oda had Emu set up 2 major plot points with the Holy Knights, possibly with Elbaf, going into the present, so we'll have to wait and see where that goes. But like I said, if Oda's dead serious about wrapping up Elbaf this year, then we're not going to have long to wait. So I can't wait to see what that is. I can't wait to see the rest of the Straw Hats, aka Robin. Hopefully, like I said before, Oda doesn't shy away from, because it seemed like Oda was going to have Robin do something before it cut away to all this. We'll have to wait and see it. I can't wait to see it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. That's going to do it for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you guys know what to do. Hit that thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate all you guys' support when it comes to these One Piece reviews and One Piece content. Catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy, guys. Bye.